Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's video is about an album review on Clock DVA's 1989 album, Buried Dreams. Here's the original CD right here. Uh, yeah, I'm going to go through the album and rate it, and rate the songs, and then rate the overall album review, or rate the overall album. Kind of jump into this one. Title track, Buried Dreams. Um, really dramatic opening. Melody. Very, very good intro. I give this one 3 stars. Clock DVA is one of the most, I would say, powerful industrial bands. Dark sounding. Um, Foreboding. Almost haunting. Um, Addie Newton on vocals is just, his voice is just, I mean, once you heard you never forget it. It's such a cool voice. It's so dark and so deep and powerful. It's just amazing. I'm a big fan of Paul Browse. He's also a member of this band. He went on to do a lot of good electronic music with Effective Force in the early 90s and other electronic acts as well. He's a really strong producer. And then also you have Dean Dennis, was the third member during this incarnation of the band. He does bass and things like that and programming, I believe, if I'm not 100%. But they went through some different stages of members, and those 3 members did this particular album. This is considered probably one of their best um, albums, but this is probably, I want to say this might be their 5th album or 6th album. There's some cassettes in there as well, some unreleased stuff, and or some 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 home releases that weren't necessarily distributed well or on a main label. Um, but this album is considered probably one of their best. Um, yeah, I really like Thirst in the earlier '80s as well, and I like Man Amplified as well, the album after this. But Clock DVA is um, such an interesting artist. If I'm not mistaken, they came from Sheffield, and they kind of have that Sheffield sound, which has the Cabaret Voltaire, and there was kind of a little bit more of a rhythmic um, side to Sheffield, UK industrial that sort of then established itself as um, new wave, and then also into the techno side, the Sheffield bleep sound, and early techno of the late '80s and '90s as well. But the people talk about Manchester a lot, and London, and even Leeds, or maybe even Liverpool, like Beatles and things like that. I'm trying to remember where Pet Shop Boys, or where Depeche Mode are from. Are they from Liverpool? No, I can't remember where Depeche Mode are from. But Sheffield is very underrated when it comes to the impact that they've had on music, and I feel like Sheffield is kind of more known for the more rhythmic side of industrial and of bleep and techno, and just maybe new wave in general. Um, yeah, just there's a lot of great bands that came out of the Sheffield Sound, and Clock DVA is one of the best in my opinion. But right off the bat, really good intro, 3 stars. Hide's a really good track as well. It's got a really cool beat, cool bass line. Got 2.5 stars. Maybe the lyrics and the chorus really aren't there for me as much as some of the other songs. Sound Mirror, very well programmed um, song as well. Um, 2 and 3/4 stars as well, or excuse me, 2 and 3/4 stars. Couldn't really feel like I could give that one a very good rating though. I couldn't get it over the 3 stars. Velvet Realm is my favorite song on the album. It's just so haunting, and his voice is amazing, and the melody and the chimes and the cool bass line and the verses. It's really dramatic, powerful song. Like it's like if you've ever I've played this song live like in a club before setting, and it's just there's nothing like it. There's some songs you play by Clock DVA, and they just stop people in their tracks. Um, I've played some things like Christian Death, or maybe like Death in June or something like that, a little bit more on the rock side. But there's some certain bands that in kind of like goth and industrial that just like stop people on their tracks. I wouldn't even say Skinny Puppy is a. There's probably some songs that would do that, but they're a little bit more soundtrack like. But I mean, you play Velvet Realm out in the club, and people will just be like, "What is this? Like this is just this is cool." Um, I got it 4 stars. I mean, it's such an excellent song. I love that song. Um, the album just gets continues from there. Really, The Unseen. It's one of my favorites on this album. Also, the melody. It's got some really cool samples, really cool beat. I got 3.5 stars. And then the Rain, I feel like is maybe the best rhythm and beat on the album. I really like the piano as well. It's really dark. 3.5 stars as well. So 3 really strong tracks back to back to back. And then I got the Act, which is interesting because I have it 2 3/4 stars. I couldn't really put it over the edge to very good, but I do feel like it's a really strong track. But I wanted to say, like, if Kraftwerk did an industrial song, it would sound like the Act. Like there's a kind of a Kraftwerkian sound in the Act that makes me think of Kraftwerk for sure. I don't know if you guys know the album and you've heard that, but it does sound like if Kraftwerk did an industrial album, it would sound like that. And then the last track, the Hacker, which I have the Hacker in the Act right here. The single has some extended versions of it, and different versions of it. Um, yeah. I also have the vinyl of this, but I couldn't find it. I don't know where my Hacker vinyl is. Surprised it's not in my industrial section. But anyways, um, I really this one's probably the most standout, like strong club beat, strong groove verse. It kind of sounds dangerous. It's like it's very edgy track. I got it 3 stars. Very good track as well. So 8 songs on here. So maybe a little bit short on content on this album, but most of the songs are above 5 minutes. The album is 43 minutes, so it definitely averages over 5 minutes. But that's probably thanks to the Hackers, over 7 minutes itself. But I wouldn't say 8 tracks is verging on 8 tracks is kind of my limit. Like if it's 7 tracks, unless they're like 10-minute songs, like 7 minutes is too short of an album. 8 is kind of verging on it, but you know, for some, if it was a pop album and there was 8 songs, I would think it would be too short. But sometimes on industrial or techno or ambient stuff, especially like certain styles of music, eight songs is understandable. Um, so the overall good on this album, some powerful and dramatic but catchy songs, dark, scary, but cool. Velvet Realm, The Rain, The Unseen, and Buried Dreams are probably my 4 favorite. Newton's voice, he kind of has that trademark coarse and sinister vocal delivery. They do some good sampling in here, not over sampling. It's good sequencing. Um, that's kind of the overall good of the album. It's kind of a groundbreaking album in a lot of ways. I mean, you go back to 1988, 89, compare this to anything out there, you will not find anything like this. And that has a And that's a that's a testament to Addie's vocals. It's a testament to Paul Browse and Dean Dennis's programming. It's just like it's not just his voice that's it's their beats and the darkness that combine with his voice. But it's just there's nothing really out there like that in those years. Just I don't know of anything that's like that. There's a certain level of kind of take this with a grain of salt, but there's one thing that I look for in industrial and techno and just a little bit of and I use this word lightly, but funk or house. If it's techno, I look for a little bit of house in it. If it's industrial, then I look for a little bit of sort of EBM in there, or funk, or it's got to have a groove to it. It's like people think of like industrial music that don't know industrial music is very, very consistent, almost like more like techno, and very raw and rigid. And the best kind of industrial is not rigid. Um, even something like Nine Inch Nails, Pretty Hate Machine, which is your kind of good, but it's kind of I wouldn't say standard, but there's not too much. There's a little bit of the thing that makes any industrial timeless is it has to have those elements of some sort of like EBM feel or house or I feel like some of the best industrial or some of the best techno producers come from a techno background. You think of like Jeff Mills, who was in, although I'm not a huge Jeff Mills fan, um, he was on Final Cut. You know what I mean? So Nuvek Org really likes Aphex Twin. You know, so there's like a industrial music and techno music are very much in tune with each other, and EBM music as well. And I feel like to do the other genre, you have to have a good knowledge of the other genre to. I mean, it will help. I'll just put it that way. People that do techno that don't have a background in industrial and EBM music, I feel like I can pick apart their music and not enjoy their music, and it feels kind of stale, kind of techno, like techno influenced by ambient music, techno influenced by industrial music. I really like. I really like. But industrial techno music inspired by and house music as well. There's tech house. There's that bastardized genre of tech house. There is some good stuff in there, but it's just a horrible term. But the techno that's not inspired by ambient or industrial or doesn't have a house background, you know, that generally is the ones that are not timeless sounding to me. That don't sound that haven't stayed um, relevant, and they aren't timeless, and I wouldn't say they're flawed, but they lack the depth. They lack that funk that I'm looking for, and that Detroit techno kind of sound in techno, that off rhythm, that even jazz element. There's a certain rhythms of jazz element in some. I wouldn't say in some industrial music, but in some techno music and house music. There's certainly a jazz in there influence as well. But there has to be that rhythm that's juxtapositioning the consistency of techno, right? So it's almost hard, but I think I think what I'm talking about. But Clock DVA as an example of somebody who does that well. I mean, it sounds dated, but it doesn't sound dated. Um, the opportunities for this album, the obviously the production is really raw. You know, the CD sound is a little thin on this. Some sounds are very loud, but they're still kind of thin. So you still kind of like there, but that there is kind of a dramatic side to that. Maybe a more of a soundtrack leaning towards it, which makes sense for their background of their audio assaults that they do in the side projects and things like that. But just overall, Clock DVA sound is very aggressive, and so some are loud, but I feel like on the low end it's still a little bit thin. But it is 1989. Um, but maybe that's a little bit of opportunity. But and then there's 8 songs. Maybe it could be another song or two in here that would really kind of complete the album. But a really strong album. Groundbreaking in some ways for sure. Um, when I take the overall stars, add them up, I got 25 stars divided by 8. So a really strong 3.12 average. 3.12. So that puts it, for my scoring, that puts it, in the low 70s. And I gave it a couple extra points for the groundbreakingness of this album. I feel like the sound is nothing like it. 1989. Um, I give it a few extra points for a 76 out of 100. So it's on the higher side of very good. Is it excellent? Why isn't it excellent? Uh, I got 4 of the 8 songs. Sorry, 5 of the 8 songs above very good. So more of the album is very good. Couple stronger songs on here. I could be rating Hide and Sound Mirror a little low, not putting in 3 stars, and really the act not 3 stars either. But I could easily say those are 3 stars as well. But I don't think the album really kind of gets to an excellent level because there's only really one song that I feel is excellent, and I feel like there's 3 to 4 that are kind of in the middle of very good. So I can't really put the album at excellent, although it's a very highly respected album. Um, I can't say enough good things about it, but it just doesn't really hit the top tier for me where I feel like I can justify giving it above an 80 score. So, but I still get on the higher side of 70s and a 76. So, really strong album. Buried Dreams. Check it out if you haven't got a chance. If you want to hear something different, play Velvet Realm by Clock DVA. Velvet Realm by Clock DVA. Awesome album. All right. Thanks so much for listening or watching.